Hello, everyone. Good day and welcome to Alena Media TV. We are broadcasting from Toronto, Canada. I am Elsa Abraham. We have some good news, and the good news is Alena Media TV would like to announce to our lovely viewers that we are expanding our programs to a satellite broadcasting. Kindly take note of our weekly activities and satellite channel. On Mondays, we'll bring you African history. Tuesdays, editorials. Wednesday, African news. Thursdays are entertainment. Friday is COVID-19 report. Saturday is entertainment. And Sunday is Your Say. Our satellite broadcasting is coming soon. We'll begin on the 20th of June 2020, which will be the Memorial Day of our Martyrs. Kindly take note of our satellite channel frequency. Now sat vertical 12728. Symbol rate 27500. FEC 5/6. We'll bring you more details after this short break. Kindly stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, our headlines. Egypt, Ethiopia rejecting fundamental issues on Nile Dam. Ethiopia wants to fill dam's reservoir in coming weeks, but Egypt says that could significantly reduce its Nile water. Sudan finds mass grave believed to be linked to 1998 killings. And 20 soldiers, 40 civilians killed in attacks at Nigeria's Borno state. Now let's go for the news in details. Egypt and Sudan have said that talks over a controversial dam on the Nile River will resume on Monday, amid Egyptian accusations that Ethiopia has sought to scrap all agreements and deals they had previously reached, and that many fundamental issues remain rejected by Ethiopia, the third party to the talks. The construction of the $4.6 billion grand Ethiopian Renosa Dam on the Blue Nile, which is more than 70% complete and promises to provide much needed electricity to Ethiopia's 100 million people, has been a contentious point among the three main Nile basin countries. The three countries have been holding talks for years without reaching a deal. These talks come to an acrimonious halt in February when Ethiopia rejected a US crafted deal and accused the Trump administration of siding with Egypt. Ethiopia wants to begin filling the dam's reservoir in coming weeks, but Egypt has raised concerns that filling the reservoir behind the dam too quickly could significantly reduce the amount of Nile water available to Egypt. After months of deadlock, Sudanese, Egyptians, and Ethiopian water and irrigation ministers resumed talks last week, with observers attending from the US, the European Union, and South Africa, which is the current head of the African Union. Sudan's irrigation ministry said Saturday's talks focused on technical matters of the dam's operation and the filling of its massive reservoir during rainy seasons and droughts. It said it will craft a draft paper based on Egyptian and Ethiopian notes to be discussed on coming Monday. Egyptian's irrigation ministry said the June 9 to 13 talks revealed the differences that remained with Ethiopia. These issues include Ethiopia's total rejection of addressing technical issues related to the mitigation measures for droughts and prolonged droughts and measures to address prolonged dry years. The ministry stated Ethiopia rejected the inclusion of a legally binding dispute resolution mechanism. It said Egypt reaffirmed that these are essential components in any agreement that relates to an existential matter that affects the lives of over 150 million citizens of Egypt and Sudan. The statement said Ethiopia's Water and Energy Ministry said the talks have achieved progress and they will result in finalizing the process with a win-win outcome. It said the three countries reached an outstanding understanding on the first stage of failing and the approach to drought management rules. But Mohamed El Sabai, a spokesman for Egypt's irrigation ministry, said Ethiopia rejected a Sudanese proposal last week that could be a basis for negotiations between the three countries. Instead, Addis Ababa introduced a worrisome proposal that included its vision on the dam's operation. He said Ethiopia's lacked the political will to compromise and wants Egypt and Sudan to abandon their water rights and to recognize Ethiopia's right to use the Blue Nile waters on literally and to fill and operate the dam in accordance with its vision. The proposal is not legally and technically sound, he told reporters in Cairo. It is clear attempts to impose a fait accompli on my downstream country. Egypt and Sudan rejected the Ethiopian proposal, El Sebai said. The Ethiopian ministry said El Sabai's comments were regrettable. It said that if the continuing negotiations failed, it would be because of Egypt's abstinence to maintain a colonial-based water allocation agreement that denies Ethiopia and all upstream countries their natural and legitimate rights. The Blue Nile flows from Ethiopia into Sudan, where it joins the White Nile near the capital, Khartoum, to form the Nile River. 85% of Nile waters originate in Ethiopia from the Blue Nile, which is one of the Nile's two main tributaries. Egypt last week called for Ethiopia to clearly declare that it had no intention of unilaterally filling the reservoir and that a deal that was prepared by the US and the World Bank in February serves as the starting point of the unresumed negotiations. The US has crafted a deal in February after more than 4 months of talks and said the final testing and failing of the dam should not take place without any agreement. The deadlock over the dam has become increasingly bitter in recent months, with Egypt saying it could use all available means to defend the interests of its people. Ethiopia's deputy army chief on Friday said his country will strongly defend itself and will not negotiate the sovereignty over the disputed dam. Now, moving on to our second story for the day. Sudan finds mass grave believed to be linked in 1998 killings. Discovery was made at Al El Fallon military camp, where conscripts used to get trained under former ruler Omar al-Bashir. Sudanese officials have announced the discovery of a mass grave southeast of the capital Khartoum, suspected to contain the remains of conscripts who in 1998 tried escaping military service from a training camp. The committee tasked with investigating the killings at Al El Fallon military camp found the mass grave in the past 4 days after hearing witness accounts, public prosecutor said on Monday without giving details on the number of bodies found. The grave was exhumed, and now the committee will continue to work with forensic authorities and examine the evidence, said Wael Said, a member of the investigation committee. A source in the investigators team told Reuters news agency dozens of bodies have been found. The military camp was used to training new soldiers under the rule of former President Omar al-Bashir, who was removed by the army last year in the wake of months-long pro-democracy protests. A year after Bashir's removal, Sudan still has a long road ahead. The poorly trained and equipped soldiers were sent into the bush fighting against the Sudan's People's Liberation Army. In 1998, a group of them were killed as they attempted to escape the base for the Muslim El El Adha holiday. Idil Adha holiday. The students were also angry that they had been denied the time to spend with their family during the holiday. according to the prosecutor. The Sudanese government said at the time that 55 young conscripts who fled the military base drowned when their overloaded boat capsized in the Blue Nile River. However, opposition groups accused the government of carrying out the killings and reported a higher death toll of more than 100 soldiers. Many Sudanese families reported that their sons went missing and their remains were never found. The Sudan People's Liberation Movement, the political wing of the South Sudan Army, won independence for the South in 2011, following a peace deal with al-Bashir's government in 2005. Al-Bashir, who had seized power in a 1989 coup, was arrested in April 2019 when he was deposed by the army. He is wanted by the International Criminal Court, facing charges of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity for atrocities committed by pro-government forces in Darfur. Sudan's new governing authorities have yet to hand him over to the ICC for persecution. Now, moving on to our last story for the day. 20 soldiers and 40 civilians killed in attacks, Nigeria's Borno state. Islamic State West African province claimed twin attacks which burned down a UN humanitarian hub and a police station. The Nigerian government has been fighting armed groups Boko Haram and its offshore ISWAP for years, leaving thousands dead and displacing millions in the country's northeast. At least 20 soldiers and more than 40 civilians have been killed and hundreds injured in twin attacks in the northeast Nigeria's Borno State residents, and a civilian task force fighter said. The attacks on Saturday in the Monguno and Inganza areas came just days after armed fighters killed at least 81 people in a raid on a village in a third area, Gubbio. Two humanitarian workers and three residents told Reuters that fighters armed with heavy weaponry, including rocket launchers, arrived in Monguno, a hub for international non-governmental organizations, at roughly 11 a.m., 10 o'clock GMT. The fighters then overran government forces, taking some casualties, but killing at least 20 soldiers and roaming the area for 3 good hours. The sources said hundreds of civilians were injured in the crossfire, overwhelming the local hospital and forcing some of the injured to lie outside the facility awaiting for help. The fighters also burned down the United Nations humanitarian hub in the area and set fire to the local police station. Fighters distributed letters to residents in the local Hausa language, warning them not to work with the military or international aid groups. Fighters also entered in Gaza of about the same time on Saturday, according to two residents and one civilian joint task force fighter. They arrived on motorcycles and in pickup trucks and killed more than 40 residents, the sources said. The military spokesman did not answer calls for comment on the attacks. The UN officials could not immediately be reached for comment. Boko Haram and its offshoots, Islamic State West African province, have killed thousands and displaced millions in northeastern Nigeria. Islamic State West Africa province claimed the two Saturday attacks as well as the Gubbio attack. This is where we end today's episode for our African news today. Please don't forget to like, share, comment. Let us know your thoughts on this particular episode. Thanks for watching.